Hey there, welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you with us today because we are diving into a monumental turning point in alternate history. This is pulled straight from the pages of the upcoming book, Reach for the Stars. That's part of the Badger Federation Chronicles, by the way. Today, we're exploring exactly how Earth transitions from just trying to survive as a single-planet species into a mature, full-blown spacefaring civilization. We're way past the early days of despot survival now. We're getting into the incredible infrastructure, the lunar shipyards, and the hardcore doctrines it actually takes to live among the stars.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this is where the paradigm completely shifts. For years, the big question hanging over this universe was simply, can the orbital lift actually work? But now, 5 years after those first successful tests, that question is totally obsolete. They pulled off the impossible. So the new question, and honestly the far more interesting one, is what happens when space travel becomes just another Tuesday? What does it look like when the miraculous, mind-bending operations of space just become routine? So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll look at the routine wonders of space. Then, the absolute rule that machines always go first. After that, we'll check out the moon as industrial hub, followed by building the road to space. And finally, we'll wrap up with the shift from experiment to civilization. Let's get to it.
All right, Section 1, Routine Wonders of Space, the Era of Paperwork and Process. Moving from these wild experimental test flights to everyday logistics requires a complete change in how you measure things. There's this profound quote from the text that just nails this exact shift. It says, "The first sign that the impossible had become ordinary was the paperwork." I mean, think about that. Success in a mature federation isn't measured by applause anymore or by everyone holding their breath during a launch countdown. No, it's measured by maintenance schedules, it's measured by safety oversight, and accountants. The pure wonder of it all has literally been replaced by the daily grind of the work. This shift is really perfectly captured when you think about railways. Picture the very first railway ever built. It gathered these massive crowds of spectators, all waiting to see if this impossible machine would explode or if it would actually succeed, right? But the 100th train, the 1000th, it operates completely without spectators. Nobody cares. It's focused entirely on schedules, on getting cargo from A to B and routine arrivals. And that is exactly what the spacelift has become here. It's not a grand experiment anymore. It's just a functioning, reliable railway to orbit. We see this reality perfectly reflected in how Woomera has evolved over the past 5 years. It's gone from a scrappy early test site to a fully operational lift facility handling daily cargo and passenger transfers. But even more importantly, Woomera has become the absolute central hub for all space certification. Every single engineer, every medical officer, every commander, they all pass through Woomera. And the really crucial takeaway here, Woomera teaches doctrine, not nationality. They study failure records and assess safety with this incredibly cold, pragmatic mindset that green means proceed. It does absolutely not mean safe. Moving right along to Section 2, Machines Always Go First, the Foundational Space Doctrine. So the crucial point is, how does the Federation actually keep its people alive in an environment that literally wants to kill them every single second? It all comes down to this unyielding mandate. Machines chart, machines build, machines fail first. Humans follow. The Federation absolutely rejects the old sci-fi trope of throwing humanity out into the dark unknown just to prove how brave we are. Like their engineers point out, courage shouldn't have to do the work of planning. They formalize this as the Machines First Doctrine. Basically, it's a core principle stating that artificial intelligence, drones, and uncrewed vessels have to face the lethal dangers of deep space before any biological life is ever put at risk. The Federation uses these AI mesh ships to take the absolute physical punishment of space first. For example, their advanced SOAP drive, which is this experimental high-speed propulsion tech, moves these machines at terrifying speeds. But that exact same acceleration, combined with cosmic radiation and gravitational hazards, would literally reduce biological material to a molecular soup. Basically, machines can tolerate what living tissue absolutely cannot. I really want to guide you through this specific sequence, because this is how the Federation practically, systematically conquers the solar system. Step 1. Automated scout ships go out to chart the radiation and gravity hazards. Step 2. The mesh ships follow right behind them, placing communication relays and navigation markers so nobody is flying blind. Step 3. Factory ships deploy. These act as massive mobile refineries and foundries right there in the void. And finally, Step 4. Humans follow, but only when the route has literally been made survivable. Which brings us to Section 3, the Moon as industrial hub, leaving Earth behind.
With this massive expansion happening, Earth simply cannot be the center of heavy manufacturing anymore. The whole division of labor completely changes. Earth's role shifts strictly to administration, high-level research, training, and launching very precise, high-value equipment. Why? Because the Moon is taking over all the heavy manufacturing, the massive structural construction, the shipbuilding, and the resource processing. I mean, it begs the question, right? Why on Earth, pun intended, would we ever launch thousands of tons of steel from Earth's surface when we can just build everything right out of lunar material?
Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer engineering brilliance behind it. There's a great note from an American shipyard engineer that says, if we assemble the hulls here, we never have to lift them out of Earth's gravity well. Half the fuel problem disappears overnight. It makes total sense, it's incredibly pragmatic, and it literally paves the way for rapid, massive scaling. But they aren't just building willy-nilly. They are extremely strategic about lunar geography. The near side of the Moon is focused entirely on shipyards and lift support, but the far side, that is strictly reserved for hazardous quarantine ranges. The Federation set it up this way to ensure that if there is ever a catastrophic failure, an explosion, a radiation leak, the risks vent out into deep space, pointing entirely away from Earth's fragile biosphere. Meanwhile, these automated factory ships are already targeting the asteroid belt for raw materials to feed these booming lunar shipyards.
All right, Section 4, building the road to space, the geopolitical division of labor.
Expanding into the solar system requires massive synergy, and you can see this perfect geopolitical division of labor between the major factions. The Federation focuses on advanced exploration and fast response rescue using their high-tech but limited crew soap drive. America, on the other hand, fully embraces its national character of massive scale and frontier expansion. They focus on the heavy industrial lifting, utilizing massive chemical rockets and nuclear thermal ships. So, the Federation provides the cutting-edge, high-tech science, while America provides the raw industrial muscle required for mass transport. It's a perfect match. And what's crucial is that neither of them skips any steps. We can walk right up this technical ladder to see that the Federation doesn't just wildly leap from short orbital hops directly to deep space crewed ships. It's a highly disciplined progression. They go from testing orbital mechanics with short controlled hops to establishing steady supply chains and moon ferries. Then they master endurance craft that can sustain gentle acceleration over weeks. And only then, finally, do they arrive at interplanetary craft capable of moving living biological tissue safely across the solar system. Every single rung of that ladder has to be proven. Let's move to our final part and see how this all builds together in Section 5, from experiment to civilization, the new frontier. Okay, I absolutely love this concept. They call them space Bothies. Now, if you don't know, on Earth, a Bothie is basically just a traditional bare-bones mountain shelter for hikers to get out of the rain. But in the Federation, a space Bothie is a high-tech automated emergency shelter floating right out there in the dead void of space. They're placed along established deep space routes by those factory ships we talked about earlier. It's the ultimate safety net. If a crew encounters trouble beyond the Moon, they know there is a Bothie waiting for them with power, air, and a safe place to wait for rescue. They're never just left alone in the dark. And I think this thought beautifully encapsulates the entire partnership going on here. The Federation opened the door, the Americans are building the road beyond it. It literally takes both, the cutting-edge science of the Federation to break the very boundaries of physics, and the massive, unstoppable industrial willpower of America to actually pave the road to the stars.
So, to summarize our core takeaways for today, true progress isn't just about pulling off one successful experiment. It's about building a sustainable system. Routine cargo movement is now just a daily fact of life. Those AI mesh ships we discussed, they are the invisible backbone of normal operations. And even though they are out there experimenting with mind-bending technologies like the time warp drive, the safety doctrine holds totally firm. Warp tech is restricted strictly to probes and signals right now because human survivability hasn't been proven yet. The initial project phase of getting into space is officially over. A true, cautious, yet completely unstoppable civilization has replaced it.
Which leaves us with this incredibly provocative thought to ponder. In this alternate timeline, the fundamental question has completely changed. Humanity no longer asks, can we reach orbit? That's old news. That's been answered. Humanity now asks, where do we go next? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the Badger Federation's incredible journey to the stars.